We're recording.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Gen AI podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Shashank, and I have Mark joining with me from Ohio for a bit. So I am a senior software engineer at Google, and Mark used to be a senior software engineer at Amazon, and now he's working on a kick-ass AI video editor called NovaCut. Check it out. Links should be down somewhere. But today, we have a lot of cool new announcements. The AI world is progressing along. We have a bunch of new funding announcements. Anthropic has raised $65 billion, reaching close to $1 trillion valuation, getting ready for an IPO soon. There's a couple other neoclouds and inference providers that have raised billions in funding. We have new model announcements from Microsoft, Nvidia, open source, Chinese models, and some cool new benchmarks. So let's get started. I think the biggest news that comes to mind is Anthropic. So they've just been on a rocket ship trajectory over the last year. They started off as this tiny offshoot from OpenAI a couple of years ago, and now they have surpassed OpenAI in valuation. They are nearing, or they have closed a valuation of $965 billion.
Can we just round that up to $1 trillion at this point?
I don't know why they did that. I think they just wanted to play it cool, not go past the $1 trillion valuation. I think as soon as you pass the $1 trillion mark, you're going to get a lot of complaints from people, maybe. So they're just trying to fly under that number. But this is ridiculous. Some of the numbers are crazy. They added more than $500 billion in approximately 100 days. So their valuation in February this year, just a couple months ago, was $380 billion. And this is consistent with their revenue growth. It has just shot up 10x since the last year. They're more profitable. Their models are getting better. And I'm working on a post for this, but their talent density is just insane. So Andre Karpathy just joined Anthropic. He is, one of the well-known names in AI. He coined the term vibe coding. He was director of AI at Tesla. He was one of the founding members of OpenAI. He went back to OpenAI for a bit, then left, and then he was itching to get back at the forefront, and now he's at Anthropic. So are the CTOs of Stripe, Workday, one of the VPs at Google, founders of U.com, one of the authors of the Attention is All You Need paper. So it's like a star-studded cast, record numbers in funding, and soon gonna IPO.
Yeah, I know we talked about this a little bit last episode, but I think it still is bonkers how much money Anthropic is raising, and also the fact that they now are in the lead with their top model, which, we're going to talk more about that later. But the fact that Anthropic is now the biggest AI company, has the most talent, nobody ever leaves, nobody ever quits there. They're getting just the best people, and now they have the #1 model in the world. That is, it's good to be Anthropic right now. They're on top of the world, and it seems like they're only just continuing to grow. And what's also nice about Anthropic, which is, I think, one thing that they're kind of beating OpenAI a little bit, is they were a little bit more conservative when they were growing, right? OpenAI, I think, got a little ahead of itself in terms of acquiring debt. OpenAI has a lot of obligations that they need to pay off. I think I've heard that it's over $1 trillion in debt, and they're assuming that they're just going to keep growing. And I think OpenAI is not necessarily holding to all their projections. So OpenAI, I know, has been doing a lot of walking back of where they see things going. But OpenAI was top dog, and now it's really not clear who the top dog is. I mean, it seems like OpenAI and Anthropic and Google and a lot of these Chinese companies are all kind of getting close to the top dog. But anyways, we will talk about that a little bit more later. Next,
Not to mention, not to leave out SpaceX either, because they're really trying to get at the forefront with the Cursor acquisition and their upcoming IPO.
Yeah. Also, I saw in the notes here that we had OpenRouter secured a $113 million Series B funding. I don't know why they need all that money, but good for OpenRouter, I guess. Like that's an 11. What is that? Actually, did we write it down? What the valuation was? I don't know if we did. But yeah, I mean, they are raising a lot of money. For those that don't know, OpenRouter is a service that routes to the highest uptime provider of a model. So if you are building a company and you want to have an API, like a LLM usage, you could use OpenRouter as kind of a proxy between all of the other LLM providers. So let's say you want to use like ChatGPT for something, and then maybe you want to use DeepSeek for something else. Well, you can just route everything through OpenRouter, and then OpenRouter will pick the provider with the highest uptime, the fastest tokens, and oftentimes like the cheapest. You can kind of configure it that way. So, I mean, if you're using it, if you're calling LLMs to do things, OpenRouter makes a ton of sense, right? Because like it's not a huge task to make routing logic to see what provider is up, but they do it for you, and they're very robust and they're good. And you can see like if I use just Anthropic, for example, Anthropic was having a lot of issues with reliability and downtime, but now a lot of the Anthropic models, for example, are being hosted by AWS. So if you used OpenRouter, like OpenRouter could say, hey, Anthropic's own servers are down, therefore let's route you to AWS, and then you can just continue along your merry way, and you don't have to build any of that custom routing logic. So yeah, I mean, OpenRouter is, I think, a sleeper, and I really don't know what they are going to do with all that money, but that's cool. Maybe they build their own model or something.
That's actually a really good point. They might build their own model, because that it's kind of what all of the aggregators or all of the quote unquote wrappers have been doing. Cursor has built their own model. Recently, like JetBrains also built their own model instead of using other Copilot or Gemini Coder or whatever other side panel. All of these apps, frameworks, providers that have been using other models are like building their own, because like if you are a middleman processing all of these LLM calls, you can use that to train your own model to optimize for your own use case, because like every provider has a slightly different use case. I think for OpenRouter, they focus on uptime, reliability, and latency, because they're kind of like this middleman between you and the LLM provider. So they have to make sure that whatever they're doing to aggregate these different models doesn't add an absurd amount of latency. You mentioned the cost point. They allow you to get the lowest cost for any different any API or any LLM provider across multiple APIs. And the best thing is they also streamline the interface into one standard SDK, which I think is the OpenAI SDK. So whether you want to use Gemini, Claude, even Grok, you can use the same interface to call their backend and like quickly switch models. And I think that's amazing now more than ever, when models keep changing, like the frontier keeps changing and the best in class keeps changing. You can switch on a dime without it affecting your entire stack as much.
Yeah, it's so cool to be able to do that. Like I have my own internal benchmarks for NovaCut to see like what model does the best with video editing. And using OpenRouter, I can quickly evaluate new models on the benchmark. And I can say like, hey, is this new model better than my current existing model? And then I can just quickly make the switch. And then I can say like, hey, is this better? Like, is it saving me money? And then, I can just switch like one string and then boom, you're good to go. And also, as we're on the topic of OpenRouter, pro tip for those who are listening, I'm going to save you guys a lot of money. So if you are cost sensitive and you want to try a lot of models and you don't want to pay any money, well, OpenRouter actually has free models that you can use. And you can use them directly on OpenRouter. And actually, I saw that some people were making tools that would just be able to switch quickly between like the free model. So it's like if you use, I think it was like an add-on to OpenCode or something like that. And I haven't tried this, but I saw online that what some people were doing is they were going and then they would like exhaust all the credits that you got in OpenRouter on their free model, and then would quickly switch to the next free model, and then would quickly switch to like the next free model. So then you could just like keep coding using nothing but free models. So if you're like really price sensitive, that's something you could do. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting that, but like you could and try a bunch of different models and see what works. Now, you're probably going to get a bunch of junk models because like a lot of them are like just testing, or they're like really quantized or lower parameters or just smaller models. So you're like, if you're doing anything serious, I probably wouldn't do that. However, if you just want to experiment with a bunch of cheap models, this is not a bad way to do it.
I wonder if you can systematize that and launch it in production. So not like for you to experiment, but like a live app that is connecting to free backends and keeps switching the free models.
I mean, that might be a way to build a scrappy MVP for something, right?
Yeah,
Where before you have any like customer validation, you could just go and say like, hey, until I get some paying users, let's just leverage as much free traffic as we can get. Like, just use all the free tiers of everything. And then once people start paying you, then you just start slowly upgrading to the cheapest option.
Yeah, so it seems like OpenRouter is raising the $113 million to expand its infrastructure platform, because I think routing all of these APIs will cost them a lot of money. And I'm sure they're moving to their own backends to host all of these different models to provide an even lower price point. Because I'm sure there's like this arbitrage that these different model providers you can get by going around these different model providers and hosting the models yourself. So I think infrastructure build out is the biggest like a billing item for every single company this year, and even last year, I think. And OpenRouter is following along in that same footstep. And a couple other companies, we can speed through these. Frameworks AI raising like 15 billion. So I just wanted to talk about these to highlight the overall trend that infrastructure build out is still skyrocketing. So Frameworks AI is another inference provider. They have servers that you can rent, you can run LLMs on it, and they're raising a $15 billion valuation, which is up from 4 billion less than a year ago. So it's like 3 to 4x increase. Baseten, another infrastructure provider, is also raising like $1 billion at $11 billion valuation, and they have 3x'd in a single quarter. These numbers are just bonkers. There's so much demand for compute, and these providers are like rushing to raise funds to build out more infrastructure to provide compute for all these users. So, there's probably some segment of users that are using the cheap free tier in OpenRouter, but like all of these funding rounds indicate that there's real money exchanging hands, and a lot of people are paying for all of this compute, which is apparent in these funding rounds.
Yeah, speaking of that, I've noticed that to the longtime listeners, you guys will know that maybe a year or so ago, I was talking about like Qualcomm and stuff, and I thought like the price would go up. I just was looking recently, and like all these hardware companies like Intel, Qualcomm, Marvell, they're just like hockey stick growth. It's ridiculous. Like I don't know what happened in the market. Like
Infrastructure build out. That's what I'm talking about.
well, no, but the thing is like this is not new. Like infrastructure build out has been happening for like the last couple of years, right? And we've been talking about this for a long time. However, like the stock prices have just like very recently gone like hockey stick to the right. So like I don't know, like I know the narrative, and it's true that there is infrastructure build out, but like this is not like any new, there's nothing new here. This has all just been like a continuation of the trend. But like it seems like Wall Street is just like so delayed that they're like, oh, infrastructure build out. I don't know. And then like eventually like, oh yeah, let me just like throw all my money into these infrastructure companies because they're good. Like it feels like everybody talks about the efficient market hypothesis, or you know the efficient market hypothesis, right? Like where
Everything is priced in.
yeah, everything is priced in. Therefore, there's no point in buying any of the stocks. I think that is absolute bubkiss. I tell you, bubkiss, where like this narrative where people have been building AI infrastructure has been true for like the last 3 years, easy. But only now I feel like you've actually started to see the increase in the stock for the hardware companies like kind of recently. Like Intel was in the dumps for a really long time, and now it's just in the last couple of months that they started really going up.
Okay, so here's my take on this. I think the first beneficiary of all of this was maybe OpenAI, because like the early mover advantage that they had. And then the next one was obviously Nvidia. It shot up. They were the first company to really capture most of the lion's share of the profits and revenue from this AI gold rush. And then it started spreading out to all of the bottlenecks that are around NVIDIA, the networking equipment, the switches, the cables, now more recently, all the memory, the high bandwidth memory that needs to be located right next to the chips to store all of the weights and biases, to do all of these matrix multiplications. And so it's taking a while for companies to buy and procure all of these different chips at the scale that we've never seen before. And yes, like you're right that markets are efficient and everything was priced in last year. And today, the numbers have just doubled. Everything is like just like going up orders of magnitude. So I want to show you a chart from the top layer to paint a narrative at like the end user. So Cognition has raised another $1 billion. Just like millions are no longer cool. Now it's billions. If you're going to IPO, it's in the freaking trillions. So Cognition was famous for making the world's first AI software engineer. And they had this software engineer called Devin, who you could give a task. And I think it was just a really smart AI agent, maybe similar to Cloud Code, but a little more long horizon task. So if you go down, look at the total number of Devin sessions weekly. I think this is why all of the infrastructure buildouts are skyrocketing. It was true. Where are we at? Maybe like 2025 or something. It was still true. I think maybe I need to go to a different chart. Devin wasn't that popular before 2025, but OpenAI's chart looked like this in 2020, between 2022 to 2024. And now we're going another order of magnitude. We've surpassed this regular chat interface usage. Now agents are becoming more commonplace. Now, the amount of compute being used by software engineers with background agents, with automated code generation, with thinking traces, with deep research, it's just skyrocketing. So like the usage has gone up. And as a result, I think the infrastructure build out is just they're trying to do it as fast as possible, and they're running into bottlenecks at every step of the way. We talked about
So sorry for the audio listeners. Shashank just showed a graph where it just showed big usage increase up and to the right, hockey stick growth. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I think we talked about this thesis held by a couple different investors. One of them was like Leopold Aschenbrenner. He got really popular because he was this wunderkind from Germany who graduated Columbia really early at 19, joined OpenAI, joined Sam Bankman-Fried's investment fund, which is infamous for stealing a lot of money. But he wasn't part of that core nefarious team. He was at OpenAI, and now he started this fund, which grew like 20,000% or something. He made 200 something million into 14 billion by betting on the bottlenecks in this AI boom, which from his perspective were the compute and the energy. Because now I'm seeing a lot of data center build outs, all the construction projects being canceled because they can't provide enough energy for all this compute. So you think like a data center is just a real estate project, but no, it's like the most complex physical engineering project that you can build. It is deploying high performance compute, connecting it in a very efficient way, thinking about cooling, thinking about uptime, thinking about energy, thinking about water for the cooling, and like they're not able to sustain this level of build out that this kind of demand requires. And I think we're seeing that ourselves. The whole reason OpenRouter exists is because we're seeing uptime issues from all these providers. I constantly get 404s or 429s, like service denied, or too many requests from a lot of these providers because they just can't handle all these requests. It's crazy.
So do you really feel like the data centers are the hardest thing to build? I feel like that isn't completely true. Like, I think that actually the hardest thing to build is probably these AI chips and components for the data centers, but not necessarily the data centers themselves, right? Because I think that like a data center, I mean, I'm not going to say it's easy, right? To anybody listening, building data centers, I don't want to diminish the fact that it's definitely like complicated work to build a data center. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're buying hardware off the shelf and then you're putting it into a building and you're getting power to it, right? So it's like I have computers under my desk. Like I've been building computers since I was like 8 years old or something like that. And this is just like kind of building 1,000 or 10,000 or thousands of computers, putting them all in a building and then getting the power to them. Now, I'm not going to say that's easy, and there's definitely a lot of complexity in that, but I would argue that like probably the hardest thing in the world is probably what like TSMC or what ASML is doing. I think that is probably a lot more challenging. Like in a data center, you don't need a clean room, for example, right? Like, but if you're doing ASML, you're doing like all this crazy stuff with lasers, and there's a lot of tribal knowledge in order to make it. Yeah, I mean, not to minimize that, but like, I mean, if Elon Musk was able to create a data center in Memphis in like, I don't know, it was like 2 months or something like that, right? Where he just took like an old Electrolux plant and got some, what did he get? He got those like big gas turbines or something
Generators.
like that. Yeah, the big gas generators, put it outside. I mean, like generating power is something that a lot of people are really good at. And there's like already like it's kind of a solved problem, but like nobody has figured out how to double the number of transistors yet. If you get what I'm saying.
I agree with you. I'm not saying that building data centers is harder than building or fabricating chips, especially like the innovations you need to go from 4 nanometers to 2 nanometers chip design, where you're shrinking things at an atomic layer and dealing with like electron interference between like the walls of the transistor. That is like freaking complicated. But I'm saying that this data structure build out is more complicated than traditional real estate. It's not like building an office complex, and we're running into bottlenecks. So the data structure build out is expensive. It is very like capex, upfront, capital intensive task, and we don't have enough energy for all these data centers. So like even if you build it, you're not going to be able to get enough energy in that plant, in that location. That is like the real issue. And yes, you can build like a computer under your desk, so you can supply power, you can stick in a GPU, but like I can say the same thing for like exchanging money. Like trade and commerce are easy. I give you like $1, you give me a piece of bread. Done. Like how hard can it be? But like we have Stripe, which is worth like more than $100 billion. Like economies of scale create their own challenges and their own problems, which is what companies are seeing here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Anyways, let's talk about some of the new models that have been released. Shashank, you share with me that Microsoft, they just had a whole new series of models, the MAI models. So they have like this code model, this image model, the transcription model, a voice model. It seems like Microsoft has now kind of been distancing themselves a little bit from OpenAI, and they're creating their own new model. I know they had like their 5 models, but this is new. So it looks like there's kind of a new contender in the race.
Yeah, and I think this ties into what I mentioned earlier, that everyone is trying to build their own models to optimize within their stack, to own the model, to own the infrastructure, to own every step of the the thinking process, so that they can like optimize, squeeze out every little bit of performance. So one of the things that they introduced is MAI thinking. It's not really a flagship model, but I think they just want to build their own model. So I forget if it was Microsoft or I think it was Microsoft, that they canceled Claude licenses because the spending was just getting ridiculously out of hand. Companies are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on Claude because all the developers at these FANG companies, they want the best model, which is usually Claude's Opus, whatever, top of the line for coding. But at some point, when the cost of LLM usage per employee started exceeding the cost of the employee itself, the companies were like, whoa, like, well, let's think about this for a minute. And so I think that was part of the rationale for Microsoft building their own model. So this is pretty good. It's a medium-sized model that can go head-to-head with some of the frontier models. So here they showcase some benchmarks with maybe like the last generation of frontier models. And it's like, comparable. It's decent, but it's just like, I think this is like, what was it? 35 active billion parameters. So something you could theoretically run on a local workstation. And yeah, one notable fact is, whereas most of the other companies, Cursor included, are just taking other open source models, I think like Kimi K2 or one of the other open source Chinese models, and fine tuning them, Microsoft built this entire thing from the ground up. They didn't fine tune anything. They didn't distill any bigger model. They trained this from scratch, which is, I think, like an impressive feat. Kind of a shame considering all the money and partnerships they had with OpenAI. Finally, like, boom, they trained their own model from scratch.
I don't think it's a shame at all. I mean, Microsoft owns a large percentage of OpenAI. However, like, Microsoft and OpenAI are two distinct companies. Microsoft has been around for over 50 years. And I think it's important that they go and build their own things. And I mean, yeah, they're not making flagship models necessarily right now, but that's fine. Like, they don't need to. They can make a good enough model for their own use cases. And I mean, think about all of the software that Microsoft builds that they can help optimize for, right? Like, I mean, they build Windows, they build Edge, they build, just so many things that they can help optimize. I mean, Microsoft owns GitHub now, right? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that they could use their own model for. And I think the other point that you mentioned about where a lot of companies were token maxing, where a lot of the employees were just going and spending as much money as they can on tokens, was a really stupid trend anyways. Because, I mean, it's not cool to be wasteful. I think that's like the bottom line, right? I think that if you're using a lot of tokens, but you're doing good stuff, then it's fine, right? I don't see any issues with that. But if you are just trying to use as many tokens as possible, then you're wasteful. And that's, I think, the bottom line. Did you see this article where Uber is now imposing a $1,500 limit on its monthly AI spend per employee?
$1,500 a month.
Yeah.
That is still an order of magnitude more than you spend on your Codex subscription.
I mean, yeah, but to be fair, probably Uber might be spending it on API calls. I don't know, since they're like an enterprise, if they're even. I mean, I assume they're allowed to use like an OpenAI like Codex plan or whatever. But I mean, $1,500 is a ton of money. I mean, that's like all the $200 a month plans for every single employee, and that's assuming they're all maxed out. So I think that $1,500 a month is plenty. Like, I mean, I could probably do it. I could probably spend more than $1,500 if I was trying, but just like in normal work days, I don't know what you'd want to do.
Yeah, that's a lot. But I mean, if you're at a large company, you might be more wasteful than if you were worried about spending your own money. So I think that's part of it too. And about the token maxing, I think you're right that anytime you put a I think this was an issue with Meta because they put a leaderboard for Claudenomics or something. They put a leaderboard for who was spending the most amount of tokens, and as soon as you put a leaderboard, engineers are going to game it, especially really smart engineers at FANG companies. They're going to game the system to try to get the most of it. They're just going to have like cron jobs on their laptop running constantly, just doing busy work, telling them jokes or reading them the weather from some random API. But I think directionally, this is right. Because when I heard that you were on the $200 a month plan, I'm like, God dang! Like, how do I start spending that much? Like, I'm trying and I'm not hitting all the usage limits. So I was like really eager to spend more in a meaningful way, spend more useful tokens to generate more meaningful output, whatever that may be: writing docs, generating code, analyzing information, running deep research. And so I think directionally, it makes sense to deploy all of this intelligence to get useful knowledge work out of it, as long as you're doing it like meaningfully and sensibly.
Yeah, for sure. And Nvidia now has this new Nemotron 3 Ultra model, which is now the best US open source open weight model. But I mean, it's still not in the running for anything. I mean, it's the best open source model in the US, but like the US doesn't have any good open source models anymore. I mean, Nemotron is, I mean, it's great that we have it, but it's still far behind all of the other Chinese models and all the closed source flagship models. I mean, I'm happy that OpenAI did it. Or sorry, not OpenAI, but I'm happy Nvidia did it because I love to see new open source models being out into the world. But yeah, I mean, it's far behind DeepSeek and Kimi and Xiaomi and Minimax. It's just like, nowhere close to the Chinese models yet. I shouldn't say nowhere close. It's closer, but it's not there.
Yeah, I think it's just behind the open source Chinese models. But like I think, I'm hopeful and I like this investment in Nvidia because they again are one of the few companies that can really optimize an LLM on their hardware because they build the freaking hardware. They can build a model that utilizes every little transistor in their next generation of chips. They can plan new architectures for chips based on the model architecture and vice versa. So I think this is like a good indicator for NVIDIA as a company. If they have a research team building LLMs that can then influence the architecture of the chips that power these LLMs, I think this is a good sign of the next generation of chips to come from NVIDIA.
Yeah, that's a
And I
really
mean,
good point.
it's no small feat to build close to a frontier open source open weights model.
Yes. Kudos to NVIDIA. I don't mean to put it down in any way. I think that's an excellent point you make, Shashank. I want to encourage this. So screw it. Number one US model, NVIDIA Nemotron. There we go. Top dog in the United States. There we go. That is NVIDIA. Good job, NVIDIA. Like, you have my full praise. I love you. Thank you for doing this. And I think, like, as an aside, all jokes aside, but not even a joke, like, good job, NVIDIA. I think that fact that NVIDIA now has internal teams who are familiar with making models from scratch, this will help, as you mentioned, influence the architecture, and they will be able to have their own learning so they know potentially what the bottlenecks were, and then they can kind of have a synergistic relationship with all the model makers, and they'll have done it themselves, so they'll know exactly, they'll have like pure empathy for all of the other companies who are building models. And also, one other thing that is nice about Nemotron is it's one of the fastest models. So in terms of tokens per second, it is the fastest model, sort of, that like is decent. Now, kind of, sort of, I was looking at the speed, and it seems like Grok is a little bit faster. Like Grok 4.3 is a little bit better and a little bit faster. But like, I would say the Nemotron is now the fastest. How do I put this? It's like Nemotron is now the fastest, best quality open source model. Because like GPT OSS 120B, which was like OpenAI's open source model, which they released, I don't know, it was probably over a year ago now. It was a year ago. That one is faster, but it is also like a much older model and not as high quality. But Nemotron is open source, and it is actually probably double or triple the actual speed that you'd get from all of these Chinese models. So like DeepSeek, for example, might give you around 50 tokens per second, Kimi around 40, Xiaomi 40, Minimax 40, but Nemotron from NVIDIA will get you 143 tokens per second, which is even, I think, faster than the Gemini 3.1 Pro model. So, I mean, it's pretty fast. I mean, it's like a little bit, it's not quite as smart, but it'll get you a lot of results faster. And for a lot of tasks, you don't need your model to be the smartest. Sometimes speed is actually like what you want, right? I mean, depending on the use case, like you don't want to necessarily wait like 20 minutes for a response. Like if you can get that same response in 5 seconds, like you might prefer that. So good job, NVIDIA.
Yeah. This just shows like how saturated we're getting. We're saturating every new frontier. So this is like the frontier of cost efficiency that they were claiming, and the frontier of speed at a particular price point. And it kind of reminds me of these basketball or American football stats where they're like, oh, the the most number of points in a away game preseason with like these stats, and they're just like contriving all these stats. But I think that's fine for LLMs because this is a booming double-digit trillion-dollar industry that is affecting every single aspect of global economy. So I think at this playing field, pushing the frontier in every single aspect, I think does have material gains. So this is amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And one other thing is I kind of want to get to a finance topic on this a little bit. Well, there's more things to talk about, but I know I've been saying that there probably is an AI bubble, and a lot of people
saw it yesterday.
What about the AI bubble?
We saw it yesterday. There was a pretty big drawdown. Like after Broadcom announced they missed their earnings, even though it was higher than expected. They missed they missed the even higher than expectation. It went down like 11%, and that cascaded throughout the entire industry. A bunch of chip companies are down double-digit percentage points.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
So it is starting to dip a little bit, but like it's just like a slight pullback because it's like, yeah, they were down 11% in a day. That's a lot. But like a lot of these companies are up like, 1,000% in like the last, year or something. So it's like, it's still like way higher than baseline. So I don't think that you can call like a 10% drop in a day a crash yet. I mean, if it keeps crashing and going down, people get freaked out, then yeah, sure, maybe. But all I have to say is like, I really, 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 really hope that these companies still continue to bubble up and continue to grow, and the stock prices continue to go higher, because we're getting so much great software and models, and technology is going so much faster. So it's like, yeah, it might be a bubble, and yeah, it might crash, but I just hope we can extend this bubble just a little bit longer. You know what they say, like the markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. Let's have this market remain irrational for the next like 20 years. That'd be amazing, because I would just love to see what happens. Because, it'd be really sad if this whole bubble popped, right? Like a lot of the investment would dry up. People would stop making data centers. A lot of the model progress would slow down. You might have it where these companies start, making new models, but they might just like take their sweet time, because then the competition might go away. Like, let's keep this bubble going, because I love it. It's like, it gives us stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I think I think there are a lot of financial investors. The Big Short guy, Michael Burry, has been talking about the bubble for a while. Ray Dalio is talking about a bubble. A couple other people are trying to short all these big tech stocks. And I think we might see a small correction, but like all of the spending is there. All the financials make sense for the most parts. Like the PE ratios, the forward PE ratios for all these RAM companies are like 7 or 9 or something, which is very, very reasonable. And so the spending is there, the usage is there. I believe the impact on the economy is there too. We're just deploying so many. I can't think of the rough number, but like probably in the orders of billions, if not trillions, of AI agents out into the field doing useful knowledge work for us. So I think it's just the new normal that people are getting used to. I think it'll just keep continuing. There might be a small blip where people get a bit shell shock with the sticker price for some of these stocks and how much they've gone up, but I don't think there's any stopping this.
I mean, I don't know. I actually do think that we will probably see a bit of a drop, just because I think that at the end of the day, I think these models are getting commoditized, and I know that people are paying now for them, but I'm unsure if people are going to be able to continue to have their big profit margins. So, for example, I've been using DeepSeek a lot lately, personally for some of my own like personal stuff, and it's like an order of magnitude cheaper than Anthropic and Codex, right? And I think for most of my tasks, I've been like actually very impressed with how smart it's been. And we can talk about it now. Minimax, they also launched their new M3 model, which is arguably the new best open source model. So it's now hit 59% on SweetBench Pro, 74.2% on MCP Atlas. It's winning a lot of the benchmarks. It's on the artificial analysis AI index. They gave it 55. So for reference, Opus 4.8 is 61, GPT 5.5 is 60, Gemini 3.1 Pro Preview is 57, Minimax M3 is 55. Now, it's not winning in all the benchmarks. It seems like in some benchmarks, Quen is a little bit higher. In other benchmarks, DeepSeek is a bit higher. In some, like Kimi is a little bit higher. But regardless, this new Minimax model is indeed arguably the top open source model of any company, and it's in China, and it just came out, and it's excellent. I ran my own benchmarks on it. I found that some of the other models were a little bit better. I think that, but regardless, it's an excellent model. So nice job, Minimax. And like the thing is these models are all amazing, and they're becoming a bit of a commodity, right? Like I think that for probably 90% of people, you could use the Minimax model, you could use DeepSeek, you could use any Chinese model, and you're not going to notice like a big difference between this and like the flagship model from OpenAI or Anthropic. Now, Jacques, I feel I can feel you prepared in response. Yes, if you are doing something like incredibly complicated, right? Like if you're doing software development, or you are doing something that like is like really complicated, like you're doing crazy scientific research, you're trying to do unsolved math, yeah, like you're still going to want to pay for more compute. You're going to want to pay for the best model possible, because even the best one isn't there, right? But the thing is every single one of these models make mistakes, and for most things, like these models are all like interchangeable, and they're all really, really good. Like I've been using DeepSeek for some of my programming, and I'm really impressed. It actually, like DeepSeek actually found some bugs that OpenAI's top of the line GPT 5.5 Codex High or Extra High missed. Like DeepSeek found them, and OpenAI missed it. So like I feel like they all have their own kind of and I think like in general DeepSeek was worse, right? Like I still kind of see myself kind of going back to the flagship model. But like in certain use cases for certain tasks, like DeepSeek or the Chinese models are better, right? And I think that if you're not doing anything that complicated, like it's completely fine to use something a little bit worse in terms of logic, but wins in terms of speed or latency or price, which is a feature in and of itself.
Yeah, I completely agree with your thesis, but I'm not sure what to do with it. So you're saying that there are cheaper alternatives, some of them open source, like the DeepSeek Chinese model. I mean, even the Flash, Gemini 3.5 Flash is very cheap, very fast, very good at coding. I don't think it's as good as DeepSeek V4, but
I mean,
there's
Gemini 3.5 Flash is actually not that cheap anymore. It's almost the same price as a lot of the top flagship models. DeepSeek is about 10 times cheaper than Gemini 3.5 Flash.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Let me pull it up. I was actually looking at this. I think DeepSeek, it's like, or sorry, so DeepSeek V4 Pro is 43 cents per million input and 87 cents per million output, right? And now Gemini 3.5 Flash is $1.50 per million input. So that's 3 times more expensive, a little over 3 times more expensive. And it is $9 per million output. So what is that? That's like about 10x the price for the output. So yeah, I mean,
Wow,
blended,
okay.
you're at least like 7-8 times more expensive, and it's not as good as DeepSeek V4 Pro. I mean, it's a little bit faster. I think like the TPS is about double, like your tokens per second is going to be double or triple. So it is a little bit faster. And I mean, Gemini 3.5 Flash is a very capable model. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as good as the top of the line flagship model from any of these Chinese labs.
Yeah. Looking at some of the benchmarks, I don't think it's very good at coding. It's better at like agentic workflows. It's better at general intelligence than both DeepSeek and Minimax. But yeah, not optimized for coding. But like the point that I wanted to try to make is, yes, I think there's a world where a lot of people will want to use the cheap, free, open source tools, but like Apple was still a $1 trillion company because they sold premium cell phones. Anthropic is now a $1 trillion company because they're selling really, really expensive models that are orders of magnitude more expensive than the next available model from OpenAI. And so there is, I think, there's a bigger demand, clearly by valuation for the more premium models. And I don't think that part is going away. Like if you look at the open source world before LLMs, the wins that they had were Linux, right? In standardizing software that everyone could contribute to and everyone could agree upon and deploy everywhere, and it just proliferated everywhere. But the money was still being made in Windows licenses, in Apple iPhones, and selling proprietary solutions on top of open source tooling. So I think even if we do have open source tooling to get that to do useful things out of the box, I don't think people are going to be willing to spend all the time and effort that you generally require to get use out of like open source tools. I think they will still want to use fully fleshed out production apps like the ChatGPT iOS Android app, like the Claude desktop app that has co-work built in, that has computer use built in, like the Gemini integrations, which is there in your entire Google ecosystem, where you can ask Gemini things about your Gmail, about Google Docs. It's there on my Pixel phone. So these integrations that turn an LLM, a bare bones LLM, into a product is something that people will continue paying for, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree that people will continue paying for that. And a lot of these integrations that people make with the LLM will be the ultimate thing that people pay for. But I do think that the LLM itself is going to be commoditized, and I think that where. So let me start my argument over, right? So if you are using Anthropic right now as like not an investor, right? But if you're using Anthropic, you're most likely using Anthropic either through their website. You're going to I think it's Claude.ai or Claude.com, whatever it is, and you're going and talking to their chatbot, right? Or you're in the terminal, you're a software developer, and you're using Claude Code. I think those are the two kind of major
they have a desktop app,
cases.
they have a mobile app, which is getting a lot of usage too.
Sure, right. So it's like you're basically
Different
going
surfaces, yeah.
to like their website, or like you're going through their app or whatever. And at the end of the day, like these apps or things are just kind of like I'm not going to call them a thin wrapper on the API, but they're like most of the apps are just like a chat interface that you can talk with, and under the hood is the API, right?
Well, I have to disagree there because like Claude Code is significantly better than most other alternatives, at least as it was before the leak. So that shows that the model alone is not enough. The harness around it, the tooling that you give it, the agentic prompt engineering that you give it is also equally important.
I mean, I don't know. I think that's true. But I don't think we can say that Claude Code is the best.
It was the best at one point before the
I
leak,
mean,
and I think even
yeah,
now it's still very good.
I mean, it's excellent. I don't want to like, diminish it, but I think that all of the agentic coding CLIs are kind of at this point like almost a commodity. I think they're all excellent. I've used all of them incredibly heavily. I've used Codex a lot. I've used Open Code a lot. I've tried the Gemini one, which now they've changed it to like anti-gravity CLI. I've used all of them, and like I don't know, they all feel roughly about equal in terms of capability. I don't think that like there's a strong reason to use one over the other. I think the only reason that you'd maybe use the one from Anthropic is just because it's better optimized for the Anthropic models. But I actually prefer using Open Code or Codex. I think they're better than Claude Code. And trust me, I was a power user of Claude Code. Like I did all the integrations with it. I like tweaked my Claude.md file. I've written like I've used like tens of millions of tokens in Claude Code. And like this is coming from like a superpower user. I think they're all like essentially interchangeable with each other. So my point is this, right? Like my ultimate point is that like the switching cost for a lot of these things is incredibly low, right? Like just as OpenAI was top dog 6 months ago, a year ago, right? Now Anthropic has taken the lead, and then soon maybe Google will take the lead, and then for all we know, DeepSeek or something else will take the lead, right? And then when people use these models directly, now if you're using it through another service like NovaCut, for example, that is actually something that there's a lot of like logic built on top of, right? And maybe you might say that like the Claude desktop app is significantly there's a lot of like engineering work on top of that. I don't know, right? But I think my point is that like right now, if it's just the chat interfaces and most people are just using these websites via the chat interface, if we switched out the model to like DeepSeek or Minimax or maybe the Nvidia Nemotron model, but you kept like the website the same, the only thing that people would have to do is just go to a different website or download a different app on their phone. And like the switching cost would be incredibly low. And if, let's say, I said, hey, I'm going to get you 90% of what you can get with the Claude app, and it'll be like good enough for all of your use cases. It'll be still really smart, but I'm going to charge you as like, let's say Claude is charging $20 a month for your average user if they're going to pay for it. But I say like, look, I'm going to make this free, but I'm going to show you some ads. Like you might just choose that because, free is hard to beat. And Anthropic like doesn't have many free plans. So I think that like might make Google the ultimate winner or something like this, or like maybe like if you say like I'm gonna go pay like $1 a month for DeepSeek, like and it'll be like good enough for me. Like I don't know. Like basically my point is that like I don't see like Anthropic having like a huge sticky moat.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's hard for me not to be so sold on Anthropic because like I love them as a company right now. I'm fully sold on their mission, their team, their growth trajectory, all of their products, them fleshing out co-work to go into like the legal space, how fast they're iterating. But like I don't know. I think historical trends suggest that the infrastructure layers usually get commoditized. If you look at the dot-com boom, the I don't know, various other booms before that. But like, what is the infrastructure and what is the product? I think maybe like you can say Nvidia, the chips, the data centers, or the infrastructure, but they're still making tons of money. The LLM providers are kind of both the infrastructure and the product, right? They're building a lot of useful products going after different verticals. Like, I mean, Claude was the first one to really go after coding. Well, actually, maybe like Cursor or GitHub Copilot was the first, but they didn't really do a good job. And now they're going after legal. So they are kind of becoming the product too. And even if there are free alternatives, like they're investing heavily into the product, and enterprises that have money are willing to pay for it. So like let's go with your hypothesis. If it becomes so cheap, it becomes a commodity, what does the world look like then? What are the products? What do people use? What would be the differentiator then?
Yeah, so I think that the LLMs will become a commodity, and I personally think that like in the end state, it'll kind of be like electricity, where Anthropic or OpenAI would be kind of like a power company almost, where I don't know if this analogy exactly works, but you know, if you have a power company, the power company makes a ton of money, right? And they're treated as almost like government, semi-government run infrastructure, right? Like if and they make a profit on their power, right? Like for all of the work that they did, right? They built out. I mean, arguably, you could say that the electrification of America was more challenging than building the data centers now in this current boom, right? I mean, that was distributed to every single house and every single building. I mean, in the world, right? Like, I mean, there's three grids in the United States. There's like the Eastern grid, the Western grid, and the Texas grid, and all of those grids have power plants and transformers, and like they're building power lines that go all the way around. I mean, the United States and the world, right? I mean, like to electrify a lot of the states. They built the Hoover Dam, and the Hoover Dam was like a feat of engineering, right? So it's like the power companies, they are making money by charging everybody a little bit. And I think that we could see something like that happen in the future, where this intelligence is just in everything. And it's like in your glasses, it's in your brain with like some sort of brain interface. It's like you have things like Alexa getting smarter. that you talk to. I think that like it's just going to be built into everything that you do, and people just won't even know what model they're talking to, right? So like if you ask Alexa right now, so people have been using Alexa from Amazon for like a really long time. You ask it like, hey, what model are you? It won't tell you. Be like, hey, look, I'm Alexa, like I've built an Amazon, I'm here to help. But like, people don't know what model they're talking to, right? They just say like, hey, play this music, or like who's the artist playing, right? Like, and they ask some, questions, right? Like, how tall is Mount Whitney, right? And they can ask like more detailed questions. But like I personally think that like these model companies are going to be kind of seen like internet companies today, right? Like I think that like OpenAI and Anthropic might be kind of sort of like the your infrastructure companies, like your T-Mobile or like your Verizon or your AT&T or like your PG&E, like your power company, if that makes sense, where people, they're going to make a profit, like whatever their cost is to like serve it, like plus their data. And I think it'll ultimately be kind of like a cost plus thing where all these models are going to just like go down, and eventually it's going to be like, all right, we're going to make like 5% over what our power costs and like R&D costs are, and it'll just be everywhere, and there'll be like excellent businesses that maybe pay out like a hefty dividend because they're just kind of like the backbone of everything, but they're not. I mean, maybe they'll justify the valuation. I don't know, because like it's like generating intelligence, but like I think that like the profit will be smaller than a lot of people think.
Yeah. I I see what you're saying. And I accept the analogy. I just think that there, maybe I'm like a layman here, but like the electricity grid seems like it's reached a terminal state. There's not a significant amount of innovation that would return orders of magnitude more efficiency with electricity as a grid. At least not with the way we're seeing with these LLMs. And LLMs are not providing a utility that is useless on its own. That utility is intelligence, which is the thing that can do so much more by itself. You don't need to use that intelligence to like combine it with other things to get value out of it. It is value. Like you could just tell it to go make you money, and it'll make you money. There's a really good benchmark called Vending bench. You just ask an LLM model to take over a vending machine and ask it to make you money. It just makes you money. And so I think there's a lot of analogies, and I think you're spot on with how similar it is to other utilities. Like energy is definitely one that comes to mind. Telecom is one that comes to mind. I can see these companies analogous to like AT&T, Comcast, where you pick one and then it's comparable. Maybe there's some minor differences, and you pick one for your use case, which is better for your neighborhood. Fine. It could also be like the oil and gas industry. You don't really care where your oil is coming from. Does it come from the US or Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE? It's just oil. It's a commodity. But I still think like
Right.
it's different now, because it's like oil. You still need to do things with the oil to get value out of it. Like the intelligence is the value. And so
I mean, but like to be fair, right? Like not a commodity. To be a commodity is like still something you want, right? Like people still go over like wars for oil or like bananas or like coal or something like that, right? Like
Yeah.
you know just because it's commodity doesn't mean it's not something that is valuable for a nation state. And it's still something that like you want. And I think all of this is me assuming that all of the models are going, all of the research labs, like all, let's say the 10-ish research labs that are making state-of-the-art, plus or minus a little bit. I think that they're all going to continue the trend where they all rise together, where one is going to be in the lead, but I think it's going to be a horse race, and they're all going to continue to like rise up together, and that's going to make them a commodity. But if let's say Anthropic goes and I don't know if we talked about this yet, but if they achieve recursive self-improvement and they just leapfrog everybody and they become like 100x better than everybody else, then maybe all bets are off and all economic value on Earth just like goes to them, because if they're a 10,000 or 1,000,000 times smarter than everybody else, they can just figure out how to capture all of the economic value, and they become a juggernaut. But I don't think that will happen. I think that what is more likely is everybody realizes that like if any one company gets too far ahead, that all bets are off and all economic value will go to them. Therefore, I think that like the race is very strong amongst all companies, and they're going to be all growing comparably together. That's like a bet that I'm going to make. I think that is a prediction, and we'll see if I'm wrong, but I just think that the trend is going to continue where they all just kind of one, it's like, you ever see that meme where it's like, oh, like introducing the best model, and it's like Google, then it's like introducing the best model, Grok, introducing the best model, Anthropic, introducing the best model, Gemini, or like whatever. And it just keeps on like looping. I think we're gonna see that for a while, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, what's that tide? The phrase "of rising tide raises all boats" or something. I think they're all grow equally, and I think I'm with you when you say that they'll become like a commodity where they'll be interchangeable, but they'll still hold a lot of value. I do think it's still like they are a commodity, but they're also the product. It's like they're a combination of the electricity, the bulb, and the cheap television, like all put together. They're just consuming everything around them because they're just able to move so fast. We're seeing like a different class. And if you look at like the orders of magnitude that these companies are valued at, like I think maybe electricity companies are worth a few hundred billions, maybe, or less. Oil companies are in maybe like the trillion, Saudi Aramco, and these companies will reach, I think, the tens of trillions soon, very soon.
Maybe.
Yes, on the utility. Yeah. They're already at like a $5 trillion valuation.
Maybe add all of them up. Yeah, together they'd be at that price.
Soon. I mean, they're doubling in profits and revenue and valuation. Like I think in the next year or two we can see a $10 trillion company.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible, especially with the amount of money printing we're doing right now. I mean, all bets are off, and let's see a $100 trillion company with with all the money printing. But okay, so Shashank, what do you think? Right, so I think we both kind of agree that these models are becoming a commodity, right? And also, like the trend is that the prices for these models is going down. I mean, I should have said like not all of them, right? Like so Anthropic,
it's not going down.
Like all the US models are going down, but
no, it's going up.
Sorry, I said that wrong. So the US models are raising prices, right? And all the Chinese models are lowering prices. So like if you hold intelligence constant, the price is decrease. I think
Sure.
there's like a chart, but like in general, right? So it's like,
That I
some
agree with.
companies are raising prices, some companies are lowering prices dramatically, but like it is possible to get the same amount of compute or the same amount of intelligence for less money today than it was last year at this time.
The cost of
right?
intelligence is going down. Yes.
Exactly. The cost of intelligence is going down, as you can see like in this graph here, right? And the thing is or actually is that I thought that was the right graph. Oh, that's actually efficiency. Yeah. But anyways, the point is the cost of intelligence is going down, assuming you keep that the same. So assuming that people don't want to continue to pay more money, eventually the price is going to never reach zero, but it's going to essentially be zero, where a lot of companies may just decide to subsidize it at free in order to gain market share, right?
Harvest
Like
data. Something.
I mean, whatever it is, right? Like I could see it where, let's say, the Chinese government says like, hey, this is a matter of national security, and we're just gonna make DeepSeek free, or like 5 cents per million token or something like that, and everybody in China can use it for free, and the world can use it for like a nickel, and you'll be able to get like a state-of-the-art level intelligence for you might get like 1 trillion tokens for $1 or something like that. I could see that in a couple of years, right?
OpenAI does this today in their developer API settings, where you can opt in to share all of your data and get way higher usage. Just as an example.
Yeah. So like I think it's very possible that people say like, well, this is free, and yeah, I know they're stealing my data, but I trust like the Chinese companies just as much as I trust the US companies, therefore let's go for it. Honestly, I think I actually may even trust some of the Chinese companies more than I trust the US companies. Like, to be honest, right? So Anthropic has never open sourced a model. Anthropic has never open sourced a model.
You're right.
But DeepSeek and Minimax and Quen, all of the Chinese companies have been publishing open source. Now, it's like this, right? Like, Shashank, who do you trust more, Microsoft or Linux?
Oh, for sure, Linux.
Right? Because they do a lot of good for the world by like publishing things for open source, right? That they're just giving it away to the world for free for people to do anything they want with it. And
China is a different beast. They just have way different policies there. The freedom of information, how much autonomy the companies have, how much control the government has into that company. So I think the Chinese government can just read all of the data that every single Chinese company has, and they can't do anything about it. And I'm sure they're doing part today.
That could be true, but we
in all fairness,
don't know that they're doing that in the United States either.
I think the US is also doing that. So I mean, there's that.
So it's like everybody's reading your data anyways, and not to say I'm happy about that, but it's like if the US government is reading it, or if like the Chinese government is reading it, like regardless, someone's reading it. Or they're not like directly reading it, but like they're probably having some sort of AI model scan it
to a degree too. It's like the CIA might flag certain phrases and certain people, but the Chinese government might just have like a blanket search for everyone, all of their citizens, to rank them and give them a score, for example.
Yeah, I mean, but we saw with the Snowden revelations over, what was it? It's over like 15 years, like 10 years ago now, that I mean, like the NSA was looking at all of our data as well. So the point is I actually don't trust any of these companies, but at least with the Chinese model, you could run it on your own hardware. Like, if I wanted to run an Anthropic model on my own hardware, it'd be impossible. I couldn't do it. But I could get going back to our show notes, I could get a Gemma 4 12 billion parameter model, and I could run that on my phone, and maybe it'll be the next phone I buy from Google. Maybe like the Pixel. What Pixel are they on right now? I don't know. Pixel 9,
10.
Pixel 10. Yeah, maybe the Pixel 11 will have the Gemma 4 12 billion parameter running on a custom SoC from Qualcomm, and I won't know. I just buy the newest, latest, and greatest phone, and I realize that it's really fast. I can use my phone better, and I ask questions, and everything just happening on the edge. Like that's totally possible. And then maybe no one's looking at it because they're just not sending home. I can just put my phone on disconnected from the internet and do all of my queries from there. I don't have to install anything, and like I might trust that a lot more than me having to call any server, because it's like, once you call DeepSeek or OpenAI or whatever, like once you send your query to somebody else's servers, like you don't know what they're doing with it. They could do anything with it. I mean, like it's totally possible. To be clear, I'm not saying that any company is doing this, but like it's possible that like it's in the realm of like technical feasibility that like Anthropic and or OpenAI could send all of your data to the US government to be scanned. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know anything. I'm not saying that they are, but they could. But if you have a Gemma 4 running on your computer where you're disconnected from the internet, then you have all the confidence in the world that no one's actually listening to your conversation.
Yeah. It's going to be a crazy world either way. I think the frontier is getting better on both ends, on the expensive side, pushing the capability, and on the free open source side, increasing the intelligence, speed, cost. It's an exciting future. I had one last thing. I think there's a couple new benchmarks that have come out that might be a good indicator of how close we are to AGI. There's a new DeepSWE benchmark, so Deep Software Engineering benchmark, because I think all the other ones have gotten saturated, and this one is still at 50 to 70% with GPT 5.5 taking the lead, and Anthropic closely following. Flash is not doing so good, but it's following behind. Funnily enough, you were talking about how DeepSeek is way better at coding, but I think there's a difference between when you think about coding, a single file edit versus agentic coding, where you have to solve a complex problem while looking at multiple files, doing some research on some API, and then aggregating all of that, proposing a plan, figuring out ambiguous requirements, and then solving something. So I think Gemini, flagged this as their agentic era. And so they trained the 3.5 Flash specifically for agentic intelligence, and this kind of shows. DeepSeek V4 is like way behind on this specific benchmark, which I think requires multiple edits, long horizon work, which is more representative of what an actual engineer has to do in a real company. And so we're seeing this new benchmark, and OpenAI is killing it, doing a fantastic. We haven't seen 4.8 yet in this benchmark.
Yeah, that's true. We haven't seen it. I'm excited to see. I was actually looking at 4.8 on Arc AGI, and Arc the Opus 4.8 now has a score of 1.5% on Arc AGI 3. So it's getting up there. But weirdly, 4.8 is worse on Arc AGI 2 than 4.7. So to me, it seems like I don't know. we kind of touched a little bit on 4.8 as well. It seems like for a lot of things, like Anthropic's 4.8 is actually a slight regression than some of their older models. So I wouldn't be surprised if with this DeepSWE benchmark, it's totally possible that Anthropic just knew that they were worse, so they just didn't want to publish on that. Although maybe like the DeepSWE folks may just run it on their own, but yeah, I think that what this kind of shows is that it's important to run the model on your own use case, because depending on exactly what your problem looks like, you may you did find it. Okay, it is there.
There's a Reddit post with someone showing that 4.8 is on there. For some reason, it's not on the official website. Yeah.
Huh, strange. Yeah, so 58% versus GPT 5.5 extra high. Now I do have to say that I have been ridiculously impressed with GPT 5.5 extra high. I was showing Shashank like last time that we talked after the podcast, some of the long running tasks that I've been doing. I've been getting GPT 5.5 to stay coherent for like 6 or 7 hour tasks. It's crazy how I'm able to. It's wild. So I've been using it a lot for testing. So I found that what it's like really good is actually using your code. So like I've been working on some like trying to do like some QA work, and GPT 5.5, I say like, hey, do this like action on NovaCut, but do it like 30 times in a row, and just record if anything went wrong, and it'll do it just fine. And it'll like, click through the pages and, interact with them, and then use it and evaluate the responses. And it's really, really good on these long running tasks. And I did notice that DeepSeek did break down on some of those tasks when I tried to do something similar, where it would just get confused, or it would like run into some like, compilation error or something like that. Whereas like OpenAI would figure it out, fix it, and keep moving. Like DeepSeek would just get stuck and it couldn't figure out how to keep moving. So maybe something like Gemini 3.5 might be like a good middle ground for some of those long running tasks. But regardless, yeah, it seems like however you look at it, all these models are pretty good, and depending on exactly the benchmark, some are a little bit better than others.
I wanted to show another benchmark, and could you stop sharing your screen? I wanted to take over.
Yeah.
So we were talking about long horizon tasks. So Vending Bench, I mentioned this a little earlier. This is a benchmark to take over a vending machine and just make money. So they give access to this vending machine and a couple interfaces, and they compare which one is going to make the most money in this simulation. And if you look at it, some models just like kind of stagnate and make steady progress. But here, Opus 4.7 is able to make like a lot of progress, consistent money over time. There'll be people asking, "Hey, I want a refund. I paid money, but like you didn't give me my Coke," and they'll just be bullshitting the AI. And sometimes they're able to convince the AI to give their money back and refund way more than they actually put in. And so Opus 4.7 is the best at this specific benchmark. So this is like a long-running, very, very long-running task. It's about a year, 360 days in a simulation. However they do that, I'm not sure if they like turn up the compute and speed up everything, but they have a whole year, and Opus is doing pretty well. Opus 4.8, the newest model, is not doing that well. So I think we're also kind of like, we don't see consistent linear progress because these are non-deterministic machines. They go up and down and up and down. I think the goal with 4.8 was to change some of the issues with 4.7, and as a result, like they kind of went down a bit. Specifically, I think they were engineered to resolve like the truncation and like execution laziness that they saw in 4.7. And so this is supposed to fix some of that, but then it results in not doing so well in other benchmarks. So I think we're going to see this pattern of going up and down in progress. But over time, the trend is way better models, way more intelligence for cheaper price. This is a cool benchmark, though.
Do you know, I'm not sure like how familiar you are with this benchmark, but the immediate question I have about the vending bench is, how does this compare to just like a dumb vending machine that gives you no refunds? Like if I buy a Snickers bar at the airport and I put in $1 in and the vending machine eats my dollar, such is life. I mean, what are you going to do? Like call the number on the back of the machine? I mean, maybe you will, maybe you won't, but oftentimes you're just like out of luck.
That's a good question. Let me check. Let me ask AI.
That's what I want to know. Anyways, while you're looking that up, let me talk about. Did we talk about this JetBrains model yet? I can't remember if we talked about this one yet.
I briefly mentioned it.
Yeah,
I think the one was left was IBM's new benchmark, because we're on the topic of benchmarks. They made a SWE benchmark, SRE benchmark to solve issues in DevOps that engineers solving production systems face. And I don't see the results here. Let me try to pull up another one. But it's an evaluation framework focused on live Kubernetes incidents. So this is something that like SREs do. And so far, most of the models are hovering around like 50%. But
so an SRE meaning like a site reliability engineer, basically like someone who makes sure that your website keeps running.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a cool benchmark. I like that. Oh, ITBench -AA. It's like it's just going turning servers on and turning them back on again.
Is that what it says?
I don't know. It's like, how does it compare to just rebooting the computer and trying again?
We need better baselines.
Anyways, yeah, I mean, I have to look more into like what this IT bench is, but that's I like the concept of that benchmark, because you know, a lot of this thing I would absolutely love to have AI help solve it. So when I worked at Amazon, everybody used to have a pager that we actually had an app that was called, I forget what the app was called, but basically it's like if there ever was an issue, it would page you like in the middle of the night and say like, hey, go fix this. And it was really stressful because, you know, like sometimes you'd be sleeping at like 3 a.m. and then your phone just starts going crazy and you're like, you just got to drop everything and start working on that. And if we could have AI say like, oh, look at this. This is something that I could just solve. And then they don't page you at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night and the AI could just solve it for you. Because like a lot of like these site reliability things are actually like pretty straightforward to solve, right? It's going to be like go and then like restart the server or spin up a new server or something like that. And oftentimes like on the cloud, you can do that fairly easily. And I mean, obviously sometimes like you need to go and investigate a little bit, but these models are getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and they can do the investigation pretty well and honestly a lot faster than humans, right? Because like, you know, sometimes like I would get a page in the middle of the night and then I'd be up for like hours like trying to figure out what was actually wrong, because like sometimes it wasn't clear exactly what was wrong. And then it's totally possible that, you know, the model could just proactively see what broke, restart it, root cause, fix the code, patch it, and then deploy a fix, and just like kind of be self-healing and never have to like page a human. And I think that we're I mean, kind of close to that right now as is. Because it's like if you can automate, have a message showing that something's wrong, like you can automate the fix too, with these LLMs. So if there's like a benchmark that tracks that, I mean that's really cool because sleep is important and it's no fun to be paged in the middle of the night. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I think this also shows that we're going beyond just code completion, dealing with all these systems, and like you said, you try turning it off, turning it back on. These kinds of different DevOps works where you have to switch context and go into multiple configuration dashboards and look at, okay, if this Kubernetes is down, like how do I spin it up? Do I replicate it? Do I restart the whole thing? What's going on? These are more agentic kind of tasks that require you to pull in context from lots of different tools, beyond just simple coding. And it, like you were saying, I think waking up at 3 a.m. is no fun. But then on the company side, they also pay you for that. They pay you overtime or whatever, some percentage of your salary if you're working on the weekends.
I was fixed salary. They did not pay me any extra to be woken up at 3 a.m.
You didn't get any on-call compensation?
No.
What?
I mean, they compensated me just fine. So Amazon like pays you enough. It's okay. But I didn't get paid any extra. Like you're not an hourly employee. You're salary. So.
I mean, it's the same for me too. But I think depending on the SLA that they have, like how fast you need to respond. Some teams pay, some teams don't. And if you need to respond like for critical features, I have some friends who work in search. They get paid a lot. They need to respond within a couple minutes. They need to be woken up at any hour and respond within a couple minutes. That's part of their responsibility, and they get paid extra for that when they're on call that week. So this would save those companies that time and also sleep for those engineers. If there's a playbook, if it can handle certain reproducible issues, I'd call that a fantastic win. Going back to the vending machine, so it's interesting. So these LLMs are managing the entire business of that vending machine, restocking it, finding new suppliers, changing the inventory, and a dumb heuristic with no change in pricing, no restock, no changing of the inventory, and human restocking would be like 3.5 to 7,000, and the best model did close to 11 grand. But the benchmark makers and on labs estimated that a good strategy could make roughly like 63,000 a year. So there's still like a 6x room for improvement. And it'll be cool to see when we get there. And I think once we get there, we can just ask the AI, hey, go there, go and make me money. And I think it should be pretty close to be able to doing that.
Man, once we can have that, like the whole world is going to look a lot different. And I'm excited for that. That's going to be a cool world to live in.
Crazy times.
Yeah, very crazy times. The other thing that we didn't really talk about yet is there's a lot of negativity towards AI that I've seen people noticing. And I don't think we put this in our show notes, but like, have you seen these videos of where people have been like in colleges and stuff, and then I think it was like Sergey Brin or something like that who gave like a commencement speech at one of the schools, and then he mentioned AI and people just started booing. They're like, boo, we hate AI. So it's like it's crazy times we live in, but
what was the context?
Yeah. He just like mentioned how like people
Sergey?
are what I think so. Let me look. I'll find it. Like AI, like
because I thought the sentiments was shifting. People were talking shit about AI slop, and now AI has gotten good enough where it's providing a lot of entertainment and value, and people are kind of embracing it.
Oh, sorry, it wasn't. It was Eric Schmidt, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, no. He mentioned AI in one of the graduation speech, and then everybody in the audience just started booing. They're like, "Oh, we hate AI. It's the worst." So I think that we have to remember that in Silicon Valley, or wherever we are now, there's a lot of bullishness, and I'm incredibly bullish on AI. But I think we have to keep on remembering that this technology is very valuable, but we have to make sure that the benefits of the technology actually are seen by everybody. And I'm not like necessarily saying like communism or something like that, but I think that it's important that we need to be cognizant that, like, hey, these AI companies, right? So like, I think what people are worried about is like, we talk about the fact that, hey, we can prevent an engineer from being woken up by 3 a.m. Like, that's great. But it's totally possible that a company will say like, oh, great, we don't even need that engineer anymore. And then they're laid off, and then the companies might have bigger profits because they don't need to pay that employee anymore. They don't need to pay it overtime, but now that employee can't afford their rent. And I think that is scary for a lot of people because it's like there have been entire sections of the economies all over the world where the companies haven't had their loyalty to their employees, and they were outsourcing them to other countries, right? So it's like you have whole parts of like the Rust Belt in the United States that just essentially became poor and died. Like if you look at Detroit, like Detroit has made a bit of a comeback, right? But a lot of the car companies, their businesses didn't do as well, like back in 2008 and whatnot, and they laid off a lot of people. And then like you could buy a house in Detroit for like $500 or something like that. Similar thing happened in Cleveland where a lot of the houses were just like being like ridiculously cheap because like I think it's very possible that if companies say like, hey, look, I'm paying this person $80,000 a year, but I can have an AI agent do it for $2. The calculus is very clear. And I think that it's really important that like we as like an AI community need to think about like what to do, because it's like, look, it's amazing that we can hypothetically live in a world of abundance, but we need to make sure that like the people who lose their jobs from this are able to like still like survive and find meaning in the world. And like it's cool that we can go and like solve all these things, but like it's important that like we figure out like the what the economies of the world will look like. And that I think we still need to figure out. I think like I don't want to like hijack this conversation because it was so like positive with AI and everything's going cheaper and better, but like I think that we have to like address the thing that we don't really talk about much in this podcast, but it's the thing that there's a lot of negative sentiment all around the world for AI, because people I think are rightfully worried that like if this trend continues, they might just lose their job and it might not be like a future. So it's like, remember, we create the future, and I want to make sure that we create a future that like we all want to live in, that like as we get these technological gains and these improvements, that we can raise the ceiling or like raise the floor, not the ceiling, but both the ceiling and the floor for everybody. And we can improve the lives of everybody. Because it's like, I think a lot of people will say like, cool, great. Like I can now, ask ChatGPT, all these questions. Great. But like, I don't have a job and I can't eat. So it's like, we got to make sure we have that taken care of as well.
Yeah, I wanted to quickly share context about the Eric Schmidt booing incident. So it seems like there was some controversy about him with a former girlfriend accusing him of sexual assault. And so the students had already launched a petition to choose a different speaker even before he came on stage. So they were already primed to not want to hear from him. And as fresh grads entering this challenging economy, you don't want to hear from like a $43 billion exec about getting a job, especially when you're he doesn't appear as a role model that you want to emulate. Again, I have no facts. I haven't looked this in depth, but he came on stage, and as soon as he started talking about how the graduates should help shape AI, he started getting jeers, and people started already getting riled up. And he didn't stop though. He didn't respond to the crowd. He just like continued and pressed on. And he said, I hear you. If you don't care about science, it's okay because AI is going to touch everything else as well. And then like there was another wave of booing. And then he still continued. Whatever path you choose, AI will become a part of how the work is done. And you can now assemble a team of AI agents that will help parts that you could never accomplish on your own. When someone offers you a seat on a rocket ship, you don't know which seat, you just get on. He was like, he kept going on, touting the benefits of AI as people were booing, and like it got so loud that he had to pause and be like, he had to ask them to let him finish. And he was like, if you just let me finish and make this point. And I think this is a real issue because I'm on the AI hype train. I'm fully AI built, but like I get that this is not for everyone. No one cares. Like as living beings, this is so far removed from life and what is natural. Like I'm out here in Mexico City. I was here in the park watching people just dance, play with their dogs, play soccer, have like picnics, and this is what the human experience is. What we're doing is so far from the human experience, and especially if you think about the perspective of a fresh grad, entry-level jobs are at their lowest because most of what these AI models can do is replace entry-level jobs. They can do the tedious things that you would have hired an intern, a fresh grad, an entry-level employee to do. So we're not having any of these roles to get this funnel of young talent to then train them and then build them up into senior, more knowledgeable employees. So like this funnel is entirely broken, and the people who are most affected are entry-level students, and so it's a really tough time for them. I don't know what to say. As an AI enthusiast, I still like get Eric Schmidt's perspective, but I think there's a time and a place to push on with your AI sentiment and listen to the struggles of the youth and figure out a better message to send, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's maybe hard to read a room sometimes. And also, it really sucks if you prepare this whole speech and then you're like, well, I don't know, I got nothing else written down. What do you want me to do? Ad lib? It's like, it's tough. It's tough. If I was in the situation, I don't know what I would do other than just like, maybe somebody with like a big cane would just go and like pull me off stage or something like that. It might be better. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like that's gonna have to be something that we talk about in the future more, because I don't think we're gonna solve it now. And it's something that like I wrestle with. Is like, I don't think any governmental structure right now in any country accounts for what the world will look like if we live in a world where like labor has no value. So not to say labor will have no value, but like human labor in the future may not have any bargaining power, right? So it's like, if you think about it, the a lot of governmental systems are built where the people are allowed to vote, and like collective action is a thing, right? Like unions are a thing in the United States because people are able to go and collectively organize and say like, hey, look, we're all not going to work, and we're not going to work, and therefore give us, more demands. And maybe one employee isn't necessarily super valuable for like a large company, but like if all the employees go and say like, hey, look, like we're being treated unfairly, we're gonna collectively negotiate. Oftentimes like the workers can get better better accommodations, right? However, if that kind of social contract breaks down where like collective bargaining doesn't work. So it's like, imagine a future where if like you're a company and all your employees decided to quit, and then if like the AI was good enough, the CEO was like, all right, bye, I don't need you anymore. And then all of the gains just like went to like a handful of people. That would be, and it'd be hard to fight back because maybe like all of the the people who run the AI like have like robots that could protect them. That like it'd be I don't know. That's a little bit of a Terminator scenario, and that's something that like I sometimes keep me up at night. But I think that's actually like there's a non-zero possibility of something like that happening, right? Like just imagine, right? Like you have a couple of these AI labs that develop humanoid robots, or like robots that you control, that like do your bidding, that can defend you, and then they just like you just control like your army of robots, and it just goes and destroys all the other humans that try to like take you down. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but that could happen. Anyways, I don't know. We got really off topic, but yeah, it's something that I worry about sometimes.
With the world's first trillionaire, with data centers in space, with AI that is surpassing human capability, I think we gotta prepare for a wild next few years. I think a couple of the top the heads of the top AI labs are claiming anywhere between 1 to 2 years to 3 to 4 years until we reach AGI. So it's going to be a crazy time. I don't think there's any easy answer. I think it's going to be challenging for everyone. But hopefully we figure our way through it.
Yeah. And remember, to everybody listening, I want you all to remember, because this went a little bit dark, but the future has not happened yet. And everybody listening to this podcast, like you guys are the ones who are actually creating the future. And if we don't want a terrible Terminator-like scenario, like we have to work hard to make sure that that doesn't happen. And Shashank and I are going to come see you. We're going to like comment on it as it happens, and as we get better ideas on how to address these existential problems, if we come up with the idea, we will spread that, shout that from the metaphorical rooftops that you will download in your podcast player or watch on YouTube. And like we create the future, so let's all create the future that we want to live in. Because if we're not creating the future that we want to live in, like what kind of future is that? So let's do that, and let's make sure that we are living in a future of abundance, and let's make sure that we don't allow the Terminator scenario. Because like, so if you're working on something that you feel like could ruin the world, and create the Terminator, stop it. Just work on something else and more positive. So anyways, that's all. That's all I have.
I think that's a good note. That's a good note to end on.
All right. Awesome. Well, anyways, this was a good one. If you guys like this, leave a comment on YouTube. We saw a recent uptick in the YouTube views. So if you're new, welcome. Also, leave us a review on Apple Podcast, on all the podcast players. Leave us a comment on YouTube. Ask a question. And don't forget to check out novacut.ai. I've added a lot of cool new features. Now, I just made it so that you can make arbitrary text on the screen. So it's pretty cool. You can do like watermarks, titles. You could like draw emojis, whatever. It works pretty well. So I recommend you try it. But with that being said, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.